Welcome to All Wheel Driven, a podcast by Audi Club North America, where we explore all things Audi and the incredible people who bring it to life. All Wheel Driven is presented by XPEL, the official paint protection film of Audi Club. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the All Wheel Driven podcast. I'm your host, Joe Kucinski. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Alex Kim. Alex has a lifelong connection with the Audi brand that has led him all the way to competing at Pikes Peak in an Audi S1 tribute car. So we're going to talk to Alex today all about his journey and history with the Audi brand and the challenges that the Pikes Peak hill climb raise, and what got him into racing and Audi specifically. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind starting things off with a quick intro about yourself and how you got into Audi in the first place.
Hey, Joe. Nice to meet you face to face. I think my love for Audi really started in the 80s. I was, a teenager during the 80s. My parents in 1983 got a Audi 4000S. It wasn't quattro, it was front wheel drive, but it was the 5-cylinder, a naturally aspirated 2.15 cylinder. And it was just really a different car at the time, in the mid 80s when everybody either had like econo boxes or there were, muscle cars that didn't really have muscle in the 80s. I mean, it was kind of a sad time for cars and horsepower, but this little Audi, 110 horsepower, it did pretty well. I drove it I started driving it 85, 86. I graduated in 86. And those couple of years I would, I'd borrow the car from the parents and go out on the weekends. And at that time, you could just, it was kind of a crazy time. But I started actually getting into drag racing at the time and just bracket racing. So this is like, you self-handicap and you're racing to the finish line, trying not to break out of your dial-in time. And I would go do this on the weekends out at our local drag strip, not telling my parents, of course. But the car was great. I mean, it was really consistent, which you need in bracket racing. It actually did pretty well. I ended up winning the state high school drag racing championship in 86. And that was also where I got caught because my dad was a professor at the university and one of his students brought a newspaper clipping. No. Oh, your son won the high school drag racing championship in your car. And so, but yeah, so I just really got into the Audi brand and, tried to do as much research as I can, looking up, old articles and things about Auto Union and stuff like that. I just became a huge fan of the brand. It was I could get a little bit on the Group B rally, in Europe, which, it was really hard for us to get any information about it. I mean, we'd be waiting, 1 month for magazine articles in Road and Track or Car and Driver. So that's pretty much the only place you get it. Occasionally there would be a little bit of TV on it, but, it was really hard. I mean, I think about it, how different it is today, with access to information. And if you're, into any kind of niche sport or something, which really, rally racing was back then, you could find the information. You couldn't, now you can find the information. So, but yeah, I started following Group B, when they, all of these crazy cars you hear about. And then, when FIA basically canceled Group B because it was too dangerous. That just made it even more exciting.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And Pikes Peak, I was able to start getting a little bit of like information and media on Pikes Peak. Knew about John Buffum, in the early 80s, racing the Quattro up Pikes Peak and doing well. But 85, 86, 87, when Michel Mouton and Unser and then Walter Roll, won in those 3 years in a row, it pretty much just set my lifetime love of the brand and also of the mountain.
Right. Sure. And those are very formative years. You were just finishing up high school as Audi was dominating Pikes Peak. So the timing there just kind of came together.
Exactly.
So after you got caught drag racing the parents' Audi, what was your first Audi of your own that you didn't have to sneak out in?
It actually wasn't until 2000 when I moved back to Utah. I grew up in Utah, went to graduate school in Japan, and then worked in Southern California in the 90s. And that was just all work, no play. And I was able in 2000. My wife and I we moved back to Salt Lake, and both had steady jobs, and I was able to, and I wanted to get another Audi. So we got the S4, which had just come back, with the twin turbo V6, and that was getting back into the brand.
Very nice, very nice. And you've been with the brand ever since, right? You keep coming back year after year. Obviously you had the influence when you were younger, and it was the rally racing. Anything else that keeps you coming back to the Audi? Because there's certainly a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of other choices out there, but Audi is special. What keeps you coming back?
I mean, I like the Audi's focus on technology. I think they were really in motorsports early on, even with the 90 IMSA GTO, coming to the US and racing IMSA in 89. It's different. It's not the rear wheel drive, front engine V8 type of performance. Having a 5-cylinder engine was just, I like that, how it's a little bit different, but also, it's that focus on technology and, advancing, to be able to make 700 horsepower out of a 2.2 liter 5-cylinder engine, is pretty crazy. And then the obviously quattro all-wheel drive, was a big thing for me, appreciating the technology, but just because of the difference from, 4-wheel drive to all-wheel drive, having the center differential, I think that was, a really interesting thing in the 80s and 90s. Growing up in Salt Lake in the 80s, we had so much snow in the wintertime.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And
yep.
So, and that was one thing coming back here in 2000 and, getting the S4 and being able to drive it year round, just put snow tires on in the winter. And, it's, but it's still a sedan. It's still a sports car. It's,
Yeah, it does it all. What about the Audi community itself? Getting away from the cars a little bit, but the community, the fellow members that you've met, fellow owners. How important is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, when I moved back to Salt Lake in 2000 and got the S4, started connecting with people through Audi Club North America. And just a lot of local, like-minded people that have, the similar cars. They're all at the same state where they're just starting their families, but they have these cars that are, they're practical, but they're also fast. They're also fun. They're different. and we had a really fun group back then. We would, have regular meets, just meeting and driving and talking. I mean, we'd take trips out to the salt flats, which are just a couple hours from here. We'd go do photo sessions at certain places, even go to the local track and go drag racing. So it was a fun community.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a big part of it, right? It's not just the cars. It's that shared passion with everybody else that brings folks together. So a lot of drag racing, but ended up doing hill climb, right? So the Group B rally that you watched, back in the day, and the heroes of the '80s going up the mountain certainly influenced you. But now you're racing in Pikes Peak. So talk to us about that a little bit. That journey from watching on TV or reading it in a magazine a month after the race happened to now you're behind the wheel of your own car going up there.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It definitely wasn't by design. I've always been into motorsports and racing. After coming back to Utah and for the next 20 years or so, I would do some autocross, do road racing. We have an amazing track out here, Utah Motorsports Campus. So, started doing a lot of racing with SCCA and with NASA, and just really enjoying it. I'm an amateur racer, but, just enjoying the cars, outside of just having them for transportation. But in 2000, I started seeing some of these replicas that were being built in Europe and being raced in Europe. There's a pretty big group of people that are, racing these rally cars, tribute rally cars. Building and racing them. And, I started looking for, an S1 that I could, purchase, and, came across Group B Garage, which is they're based in Florida, but their production is all done in Poland. And started talking with them and, talking about what I was looking for. I'd wanted to build a 1985, like the Milan San Remo, Group B Audi. And, they said they could build it. And, so, we started. It was about a 1.5 year process of building that car. And I finally got it in 2024. And I still didn't have any intention of going up Pikes Peak. It was interesting because I bought that and started doing rally cross. I would, did some video and photo stuff with local people because, it's just a really popular car for all ages. And I was contacted by Frank Oskai at Ray Team Garage towards the end of 2024. And he actually had 2 slots confirmed for Pikes Peak, which is, it's pretty tough to get into this race. There's 1,000 applications from all over the world. They only take 75 cars each year. So really hard to get into this race. He had 2 spots, but he only had 1 car. And, he asked if I wanted to apply for that spot. And, I was just like, sure, I guess we'll try it.
Yes, right? Why not?
Why not? So that's how it started. We put in the applications for me and as the driver and the car, and we were able to get in somehow. I felt really fortunate.
That's amazing. What special preparations did you have to do for basically for yourself and to the car before you ran it for the first time?
Yeah. So, the Pikes Peak it's so hard on the driver in the car. The altitude, of course, is, it's really, it's difficult for the drivers. I mean, we all, I think everybody now uses oxygen on the mountain. So with a nasal cannula, and you're able to, I actually don't know how drivers did it in the 80s without oxygen. And
absolutely.
But yeah, and obviously you want to have a level of fitness. I live at altitude in Salt Lake, so it's a little bit easier. I know a lot of drivers, even in this last practice, this last weekend, there was one driver that came from sea level, and he was having a hard time, adjusting to the altitude, and, even with the oxygen. So, that's definitely a difficult part of it. On the car side, I mean, it's really hard for the cars because of cooling is the main issue, because the air is so thin. There's not a lot of air moving through the radiator, and it's so it's really not pulling heat off. So last year we had a lot of problems with overheating, like every run, and we're just doing tons of modifications to the cooling system and the oil cooling, trying to get the car to not overheat on every run. But yeah, I mean, it's, part of the challenge too is just with these cars, because these are replica cars, right? I mean, they're not the original cars, so they are built from. It's a long build process, and I can tell you about it if you're interested. But the the problem is there aren't really many cars that have been built like this, right? I mean, the car is basically a one-off. The motor is a AAN 2.2 liter motor that, is basically built from a block that was used in the 90s for Audi. So it's a 20 valve instead of the 10 valve that they used in the 80s. But the fueling system, the turbo, everything is just custom designed. The electronics, the ECU, is all of this combination of parts have not really been existed before. So we're doing the development work on that car.
Yeah.
It's not like you go buy a factory car that's been tested for, thousands of hours by engineers and, built to be reliable. This is just we're learning as we go on these cars.
Sure.
So,
and what's the chassis?
There's issues every day. Things that we need to fix or adjust or whatever.
Sure. What chassis is used for the car as the basis?
So the cars are actually built from two donor cars. So what they do is so I can show you here this is the
there you go.
This is the S1. Yep. So the front half of the car of mine is actually a 1983 Audi 80. Okay. Or 4000 in the US. And then the back half of the car is a coupe quattro.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So if you talk to the fabricators, the manufacturers in Poland, like, this is the right way to do it, because they'll say some people in the past have just taken a coupe quattro, they cut it in half, and then they shorten the wheelbase. But the problem with that is you've got the windshield rake is too much, so it kind of looks funny. So that's why, for the front half, you have to use an 80 or a 4000 two-door to get the right proportions.
Wow, interesting.
So they cut the chassis in half, they put it together. They have a company in Poland, Iveco, that build race car chassis and roll cages. So they will build the cage into it, and it's like a current FIA homologated roll cage. And then all the body panels are carbon Kevlar. So, and it's basically just identical to the original molds. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's same material, same, shape as the original. So there's not much of the original chassis left, but that's how they build them.
Wow, that's awesome. And then when you kick the project off, like, how involved were you with the build, or was it just like, hey, this is what we want? We want this S1 replica. You guys know your stuff. Go ahead. Or were you like, did you go out to Poland and check on it like at a certain point, or how did that work?
Yeah, I was somewhat involved with it. I knew that I wanted the what the body to be. We wanted it to be an exact replica of this Rally San Remo car, 1985 car. But I basically just trusted them to build it to that standard. I did, because I was going to do some racing, and I wasn't intending on Pikes Peak at the time, but rallycross and stuff like that. I did want all the safety stuff to obviously be current, updated safety. I did change it to a sequential transmission just to make it easier for
for sure
shifting. And
so you ran it up the mountain for the first time last year, 2025 race, right? So we talked about some of the overheating issues, but other than that, what was that experience like? What was that like? You're out there the first time, you're behind this car, you're flashbacks of when you were a kid watching some of this stuff on TV, right? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so we do we have a practice. Like last year I was a rookie, so you have to go to one of the practice weekends before. That's 3 days of practice. And then you have peak week, which is, the 3 days of practice and qualifying, and then the actual race. But the first time I sat in the car driving it up Pikes Peak was just like, I can't even describe the feeling. It's just, is this really happening?
Yeah, right. Sure. You're pinching yourself all the way up, right?
It was just incredible. But I mean, then you really get into the difficulty of the actual event, the practice weekend, and also the event, because all of the practice and qualifying, you do it from basically 4:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. So it's early morning because they don't close the park. So you have to go up and do it. And you're just doing it in sections, right? So you're doing the middle section, upper section, lower section. You're not doing, the only time you do the full course for Pikes Peak is on race day.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So all the other times you're just doing it in thirds. It's, they have to do it before the park opens. So you're waking up at, 2 to 3 a.m., depending on how far you are, driving to the mountain. 4 o'clock, you're just getting everything ready, 5 o'clock driver's meeting, and then you start doing your laps. And then you finish 8:30, you're off the mountain by 9, and then you're spending all day fixing stuff.
Right.
And then you just, do it the next day again.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's the camaraderie like between, the teams, between the competitors and the folks that you meet on the mountain?
Oh, it's great. I mean, they're, all of the veterans are awesome. All the other competitors are awesome. I mean, everybody's supporting everybody, trying to help as much as they can. I was worried going in as a rookie, like, how do I do this? And, and had questions and things like that. And, during the practice sessions, they always had like a mentor there to help all the rookies. And it was great. So Jeff Swart, actually, he helped me quite a bit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, really awesome guy I think he's done it like a million times now. So,
right.
A lot of good suggestions. And there's a lot of things that, really, just like being prepared for, the sun in your eyes when you reach this corner at this time of day and stuff like that, really everybody helps. And
that's awesome. That's great. And you met some great people out there as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? As including Michel Mouton, you got to meet.
Yeah, I mean, as if driving an S1 on Pikes Peak wasn't good enough. Michel Mouton was receiving an award from the race organization last year, And so there was a big banquet, and she was at the race. It was incredible meeting her, because her attitude is exactly what you see in videos and stuff like that. She hasn't changed a bit. She brought her daughter and grandkids there, and it was fun. We went to an event where she got the award. They asked us to bring our cars, to park them outside the Audis that were at the event. And she came out and took pictures with the car. She wanted her pictures with her family in front of the car. She actually signed the dash on the car. So it was an incredible experience. And, I think it was fun for her too, seeing this and, showing her grandkids, can you believe your grandma used to race these
right?
Of the mountain?
Yeah. She's got some pretty cool grandma stories, right? Like that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So you're doing it again this year. You're going to be back. What's going to be different for the 2026 run? How are you preparing? Different car, different? What do you think?
Yeah. Last year was really just trying to get to the finish line, just trying to see the checker flag. That was our goal. We ran into so many issues with the cooling, with the intake systems, the turbos, that we couldn't really run it like we wanted to run it. And the other thing on race day is we were only able to race to halfway last year. There were really high winds at the top, like 120 mile an hour winds. The marshals couldn't even get out of their cars. The visitor center was getting broken windows. It was crazy last year. So it's actually, they've shortened the race a lot of times for weather, for really bad weather, but this is the first time they've shortened it for wind.
Wow.
And yeah, so we could only race halfway basically. And, I think most of the competitors were kind of feeling like, they got to come back next year.
Yeah, for sure.
And redo
so
it.
does that mean, Alex, that you still haven't run the complete course on one run yet? You said, the practice.
Yeah, I
still
haven't. That's right. Wow. Yeah, I've only driven it in thirds and drove halfway one time. Yeah. So hopefully we'll make it to the top. We definitely have a better car this year. We're running it on E85, which is going to run cooler. The cooling system for the car is a lot better, and this is it's a replica of our. I've got these models.
That's great.
So this is we did the Walter Roll Pikes Peak car, and this was a one-of-one car for Audi, right? They built just for Pikes Peak, Audi Sport. And I had actually started building this car. It was almost finished by the time I was doing Pikes Peak last year, because I had started building this even before I knew I was doing Pikes Peak. This represents like the third year that Audi Sport was on the mountain. 85, 86, 87, and it just, everything they learned on there, you can see in here with, the additional aero, the two, the double wings on the front and back, which really, because the air is so thin, you just need bigger wings, right? And then the big NACA duct on the roof, which pulls air into the radiator. This is like, I'm just thinking they probably had cooling problems too back then.
I'm sure.
So this system actually has worked out really well for drawing more air through the radiators, which is located in the back on the S1. And this last weekend, we actually found it was, the cooling was actually really good. We never had a cooling problem, the whole weekend. So I think we're going to be able to, the car will be more reliable this year, and, we'll be able to, we're making a little bit more horsepower. Not a lot. We're still under 600, which, for a 3,000 pound car isn't a ton of horsepower compared to most of the cars up there. But, I think we'll be able to do a respectable run.
That's awesome. We can't wait to see it. We'll certainly be cheering you on for sure. And as historic as, the S1 is, that's not your only historic Audi that you like to play around with, right? So what about your IMSA, the IMSA GTO car, another big popular Audi race car?
The Group B Garage guys had, since I've met them, they kept asking me, do you want us to build you a 90 IMSA GTO? And I'm just like, no, I can't do it. I've got too many things going on. I can't do it. And then last year, about mid-year, the owner, Alex Zajac, calls me and he's like, hey, we had built a 90 IMSA GTO a few years back, and it's been raced in historics in Europe for a couple years. And the guy wants to sell it, and he hasn't put it on the market yet, but just wanted to see if you'd be interested. So yeah, I got talked into it.
You twist your arm to grab one of those, right? And then you bought that car, and then what have you done to it since? Have you?
So I really haven't done anything to it. I mean, we imported the car. I've had it out at the track here a couple of times, but really have not done much on it just because we're 100% focused on Pikes Peak right now and getting this car ready. So after Pikes Peak, we'll start doing more with that. I've been racing just in club racing a Super Trofeo, and I actually did an endurance race last year in it and just really enjoyed it. So we're going to look for some endurance racing to do in this 90 IMSA GTO, and that car actually is built. It's built really well for the track. I mean, it's already been campaigned 2 years in historics last year, or last couple of years. So we're looking at going to race in HSR at the end of the year, and look probably Daytona and Sebring in November and December are the two that we want to do. So it'll be fun to get that car out.
Absolutely. That's you're living the dream, Alex. That's some great time, some great cars, and some I mean, if Audi fans were going to rank their all-time favorite race cars, the two that you have right now probably be up there, one and two, or pretty close to it. So that's fantastic, and it's not like you're just collecting them and polishing them. You're out there using them for the way they should be used, right? That's great.
Yeah. I don't really like to be, I don't consider myself a collector. I just, I'm fortunate that I can build and buy stuff that I like to drive, and I just buy to drive it. I hate to, buy something and just have it sitting in the garage. And so I think these cars, they fit that, what I like to do really well, because, sometimes people will see the car and be like, is that an original? Or you don't have an original, it's a replica. And I'm just like, if I'm not really interested in an original, I think it's great and it's cool to look at, but I don't want a car to just sit in a, museum or sit in the garage and just be on display. So, we can build these cars that really look identical and they still have the 5-cylinder, and, most of the chassis is the same, but, but the safety is updated and, we can go out and race them. So,
right. Yeah, no, that's great. Love it. So we talked about the historic cars that you have. Let's move to the present day a little bit. What are your thoughts on, the modern Audi performance models, with hybridization coming along and, some of the new supercar that they just, announced? What are your thoughts?
I mean, we've always had Audis in the garage, and we have an RS6 performance right now that's really our main family car that we can drive, and I think really that's one of the best cars that has been made. I mean, it really can do everything. We can fit our Bernese Mountain Dog in the back, and there's room for the family. You can drive up to the ski resorts in the winter. It's just, that's an amazing car. I also daily drive a R8. So 2012 that's like my main car with a manual V10. And I love that car. I will, probably always have that car. As far as the new car, what do they call it? It's the
new supercar, Nuvolari, right?
Nuvolari.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like it, actually. From the first time I saw it. And it just seems like it's really been controversial, but I don't know if part of it is just everyone is really good at complaining about stuff on social media, or, everyone works so hard to, be able to point out something they don't like.
Right. I think that's a big part of it. I think you're right. With when it comes to social media, most folks are, tend to go to the negative side more than anything else. It's certainly far better looking than the new EV Ferrari. So if you have that as a comparison, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's, it's going to have a pretty, it's an amazing drivetrain, out of the Temerario. So V8 hybrid, and I think that's been a pretty good formula for supercars right now, with, electric motors on the front and electric motor between the transmission and engine, and, then a turbo V8, motor. I think it's a good combination. And I like that Audi did that, like something really different. And,
I agree. Some Audi fans have been, complaining a little bit, since the R8 left, the TT left, right? That there wasn't that halo car, it wasn't that pure sports car anymore. And, they came out with this kind of as a bit out of left field. I don't think a lot of folks were expecting it. We should celebrate that. That's great. Whatever, with you can nitpick looks or whatever, but you got 1,000 horsepower hybrid supercar. You shouldn't complain too much, right?
Yeah. I think they were, because there have been some other cars coming out that people complained about, and probably rightfully so, on, with the Ferrari. But, I think it will eventually, people will start to appreciate it. The R8, was kind of had mixed reviews too when it was first announced,
right.
And that's become, a legend.
Absolutely. It has. Yeah. I think the new car, when I first saw it, I was playing around with, some tools, and I had it painted Imola yellow. And I was like, see, there you go. You painted a nice bright color. It looks really cool. So, instead of the titanium that they had on the show car, because everybody was, starting to, was complaining it looked like a Cybertruck or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see that, other than the finish. I didn't see that. And yeah, and Audi has a long history with that finish, the color, but so I understand why they did it. But definitely other colors are going to look great. The yellow, or, even if there's a Nogaro blue or something like that, it would be, yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think's next in your garage? So you got you got your R8, which you said you're going to keep forever. You've got your RS6, which is the do everything, no complaints from that. Anything else you have your eyes on? We got there's a new Q9 coming out. There's the new, Q7 and SQ7, which look pretty great. Anything you got your eye on?
I don't right now. I think, the RS6, we're really happy with that. It's a 2025. We just got that. I don't know. I'd have to see. We're not really in the market for another car right now, because we've got the R8 and RS6. Group B Garage is building another S1 for me. That's just more of a homologation car. So it'll be a street car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be fun. When's
with just a standard H pattern and a Blaupunk stereo and something I can just drive around.
Super cool. When is that slated to be complete?
I think it's probably going to be mid-year that'll land here.
Nice. Yeah.
And I would like I am interested in the Nuvolari too. I actually told my local dealership, I'm like, can I get one of those? And they're like, we don't even know if we're going to get one. But
yeah, that'll be the trick, right? Is getting that it's that the allocation game is always a challenge, but I hope you do. That would look great parked in between, a couple of your historic race cars. That would be awesome. So, speaking of the historic race cars, which, I think you're doing, a great job of preserving that racing heritage, the history. What's the importance of that in your opinion of that, historic racing, and keeping that spirit alive?
I think it's great for people to look back and see, these cars that were raced back then and see them racing now. It's just, I think people because it's a lot of the younger generation now are really, I think they think of cars just more as transportation, and don't really see the passion and everything in it, so I'm hoping that, when we bring these cars out and people see them being raced, that they can kind of understand the passion that, we had back in the 80s as teenagers for for these cars. But maybe they don't care, and this is just my own self-indulgence. But
what do you hope? Audi enthusiasts of all ages, young and old, what do you hope that they take away? What's their takeaway from your projects and your collection and what you're doing? What would you like them to take away from all that?
I just love it when people see the cars and they appreciate it and they really love it. I think it's just, I was a little bit stunned at first, like when I would take the S1 to a car show or something, or drive it somewhere, and like everybody loves the car, from kids to teenagers, 20s to, middle age to older people. It's like just all generations can appreciate this car. Why is that? Part of it is, the cars in video games, I just think it's cool to see, that, everybody, so many different generations can really appreciate that car and, what it meant to, technology and developing technology and road cars that, everybody drives nowadays,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. And in a lot of ways, and, in my opinion, seeing those cars, it's a little bit more special. It hits a little different than seeing, a row of brand new Lamborghinis. Not that they're not great, right? But you write a check, you get a brand new Lamborghini, right? But it's somebody who's really got the passion, I think, to have cars like, those tribute cars, the S1, the IMSA car. They're so special and so different, that you don't see them at Cars and Coffee. Unless Alex happens to be there, right? You don't see them, so it's really special and really different from all the stuff that you normally see at a car show. At some point, you go to enough car shows, you've seen all the Ferraris, you've seen all the Lamborghinis, you've seen all the Porsches, but you might never see another S1.
Yeah, and they're really different. It goes back to, when I was a teenager in the 80s driving that 4000S, and I would, pull up to some friends and stuff, and everybody wants to look under the hood, and you open the hood and there's like 5 cylinders there.
Right, right.
It's like, everyone's like, it's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Like to be different like that.
Absolutely. Any other before we let you go, Alex? Any other final thoughts? Anything you want to talk about that's coming up? Anything about Pikes Peak or future projects or shout outs to anybody?
I think the bringing these Audis back has really gotten me back into I've been in contact again with some of my old friends from the Audi Club in the early 2000s, and that's been kind of nice. So John Stallman and Mark Fankhauser, they were really big into the Audi Club back then, and we've met and talked, and we're let's revive this Audi Club Utah chapter again. It's been kind of growing, but we really want to get that going again with meets and drives and things like that. So so we're going to be working on that with Audi Club North America, and hopefully start growing the Audi community more here in Utah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great to hear.
Let's watch for that.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. That's great. And Alex, we certainly wish you all the luck this year's Pikes Peak. Hopefully you get to at least run the whole course this time. That would be nice. Hopefully the weather is good, the car runs cool, and you have a very successful event. So thank you for joining us and sharing your stories. It's been a real pleasure. For everybody else, thank you for listening. And as a reminder, visit AudiClubNA.org for more stories, regular news posts about Audi's racing activities, and everything else related to the brand. If you're not yet a member of the world's largest community of Audi owners and enthusiasts, we invite you to learn more about joining the club, and you can find that information in the description of this video below. So, Alex, thank you again for joining. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Hey, thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Alex.